this row is almost as long as the title. Can I ask you about the title?
Yes, but first, can I give kind of a speech?
Of course, please. Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you again for having us. And because it's our first hometown screening, I just wanted to take a minute to thank all of the amazing cast and crew here and in the audience. I'm going to read their names, and please, I think, hold applause until the end because it's a long, nice list. Thank you, producers Graham Swon and Pierce Varous. The wonderful cast on stage with me, Alysia Reiner, Parish Bradley, and Peter Vack, as well as Scott Cohen and Bobak Tofty, who couldn't be here. Cinematographer Bart Courtwright, production designer Grace Sloan, costume designer Nell Simon, hair and makeup artist Dawn Campbell, casting director Charlotte Arnow, assistant director Corinne Helene Gittimer, acting coach Essie Casey, sound designer Eli Cohn, associate producer Adam Kirsch, publicist Emma Myers, and Sierra Slaughter. Yes, sorry. Our cast, Michael Cyril Creighton, Ava Eisenson, Brian McCarthy, Jay and Leah Pietro, Martha Shane, S.J. Sun, Eleanor Pienta, Kaya Matisse, Josh Luxembourg, the amazing team at Magnolia, and all our fantastic cast and crew who couldn't be here tonight, and sorry if I forgot anyone, and especially our executive producers, Sean Baker, Adam Murels, and Robbie Murels. And lastly, the huge community of friends here who also helped me on the film with locations, background, and so much more. I'm very grateful for you all to be making the film with me. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me do the speech.
But yeah, the title.
Okay.
I know it's something we hear in the film. We hear a variation of it. But I'm just curious, this exchange that Anne has with Chris, was this a focal point for you early on in your writing? Was it a scene or a moment that you knew you needed to get to at some point in the film?
I don't think so, but I think at the same time that I thought of the idea for the scene and the dialogue, I thought that would be also a good idea for the title. But yeah, I guess I just thought in a film that kind of reflects on the way time passes in our lives and the patterns that, it seemed appropriate, and that there was something, I hoped humorous in the angstiness and length of it too, kind of making fun of itself a bit.
So can you maybe tell us how you did get started with this film?
Yeah, I had an urge to write lots of very short scenes that drew on personal experience, and was interested in kind of creating experimenting with vignette-based forms, and kind of finding humor in the everyday dialogue of how people talk.
Well, yeah, can you say more about, what excited you about, this kind of restriction of working in the short film or short form like vignette? I mean, obviously it lends itself, I think, pretty naturally to comedy. I think I've heard you actually liken it to single panel comics, but I think taken together, how you sequence these vignettes, mapping them around, Anne's professional, family, sexual relationships. I think it invites us to think about sort of the total a bit differently. Especially as it relates to just how we experience our own or just navigating relationships and professional or just power dynamics.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of why short scenes, I have been interested in finding concise humor and pushing that further, and kind of boiling things down as much as possible. And I was interested in making a film that kind of, takes moments of our lives and jumbles them all up together and kind of creates an impressionistic experience of how we kind of go through our days. And, sometimes, things are wild and all mixed up together, and sometimes there's kind of a lull where we stay in one place for a while and kind of sink into it. So that was some of the thinking there.
So I assume you always knew you would play Anne?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so how did knowing that you would play the main character just help in your writing process? I mean, I know with your films you often lean into sort of the autofictional mode and put yourself out there as a performer. So yeah, I'm just curious, what freedoms did this afford you in the writing process, and sort of where did that take you with your ideas that you wanted to explore with the feature?
I mean, I feel like I like to, this film isn't autobiographical, but it draws on personal experience, and I consider it autofiction. And I like to kind of, explore the comedy of sometimes darker themes, such as like loneliness or difficulties of navigating relationships, using this kind of specific personal bent that I hope, can resonate with others. And, since it's a comedy, leave people feeling hopefully lighter about it too.
Well, since we have some of the cast here, I'm wondering if maybe you can just talk about assembling the cast and just how you went about thinking, just building out sort of the other ends of Anne's network in the film.
Yeah, well, would you guys all like to say how you came to be involved in the project? Oh, you all have your own mics. Wow, this is fancy.
I'm trying to remember now. I got the script and I watched your shorts and I called Scott Cohen because I know Scott, and I was like, "Are you really doing this?" And as an actor, when you're asked to do like tiny movies with a director that you've never met before, you're like, is this, you call another actor. That's what you do, that and you're like, and he's like, yeah. And I was like, I really like her voice. I was like, I really like her voice. I really like what she's saying.
Artistic
here.
voice,
Yes,
not actual
artistic
voice.
I had not heard her actual voice yet. I really like her artistic voice. I really like what she's trying to say here. And I think it would be really fun. Are you doing, like, I'll do it if you do it. It was really one of those. And he's like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. That's the, like, behind the scenes why you come to the New York Film Festival truth of why I did the movie. And I'm so glad I did, because watching it is such a spectacular experience.
Yeah, it was a lot more simple for me. So I auditioned, and Joanna allowed me to be a part of this project. So just the normal actor, director, casting director process, and I'm up here, so I'm very happy and blessed. So, yeah.
With the help of our wonderful casting director, Charlotte Arnow.
And the noses are for sale as merch.
I was a huge fan of you, Joanna. Before Pierce emailed me that I think you were interested in casting me, and so I was immediately like, oh my God, this is amazing, I'm in. And I think that's how it happened, right?
I think you came by because we were finishing Actors.
Oh, was
You were
that
like,
what?
Yeah, you were like at a screening. And I
Did
was
you
like,
say something in person?
I was
feel
like,
it came
hey,
through-
do you want to,
Oh
we're doing
yeah,
this film.
no, you're right. It was in person.
Yeah.
You're right. But it was. I was honored. I mean, I feel like I saw. I hate myself smiley face before I even met you, and then I saw all your shorts, a couple of them here, and I was just a fan. So I felt like I was being plucked into the Arnow universe was like better for me. That's my Marvel.
You agreed before we even sent you the script. I was like, yeah, I'll send you the script. He's like, yeah, you send the script.
It was immediate, yes.
Well, I'll just say a bit about how I found these great folks here. For Alicia's character, I was really interested in finding someone who could provide kind of a comic contrast to my character, and I felt like just like seeing both of us together and your presence, like it really, I don't know, there's a tension there right off the bat. And
It was really hard to be mean to her, but I tried really hard.
And Parish, I mean, your audition just blew us away, and like you just, I don't know, you had so much sort of joy and humor in that role. Like I wanted to kind of, I don't know, show someone who was just like having a fun time with
Just having
what he
fun,
was
yeah.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just having a good time. That's all it was.
And yeah, and Peter, I just, it was, I knew when I wrote it that that's who I wanted for that. So, yeah.
It's all the dialogue's directly based on Peter.
Please, I thought you said you wouldn't say that.
Well, Graham and Pierce, maybe could you comment on, I guess kind of more of a general question, but just comment on your experience just watching Joanna build this film, build her world, just kind of what kind of conversations was she having with you about this film early on?
Early on.
You were watching me
Yeah,
We're watching. We're always watching.
on the security cameras at Nice Dissolve.
That's
I
true,
know, yeah.
I don't know. You know,
It's okay to say.
it was always the biggest thing with the film. Like I think when we were first putting it together was, at first I thought it wouldn't be that hard because there wasn't anything like specifically complex. There weren't like these big complex scenes. There weren't like big production, heavy things. But then I think we kind of quickly realized that there were just a lot of scenes. So I think there was a lot of discussion about how many of those scenes we should shoot and how many of those scenes needed their own locations. There were a lot of those discussions. But then I think, there was like throughout the big thing I remember, because I was, like Joanna and I went over the script a lot of times when we were approaching production, and I was always trying to get her to cut more because we didn't have enough money to shoot all the stuff that was in the script. And she kept saying like, okay, but I don't know what's going to really be funny until we shoot it. Like and it was really true, because there were a bunch of scenes that are in the movie that I was, trying to cut. Not a bunch, but there's several that she was right about, and there's several I was right about. That's it.
It's true.
This is why when Joanna's like sitting next to me, it's like, because she's gonna elbow you because you're like, you tried to cut that. You tried to get me to cut that, and they laughed.
But then I don't know. I mean, we just talk about everything. We just like there's a long WhatsApp chain that still goes regularly. So I don't know. I don't know what was your experience working with us, Joanna?
I thought Tyler's supposed to be asking the questions.
It's okay, it's a discussion.
I liked both of you. I still do.
We like you too. Thanks for having us on this.
Present tense.
Well, I'll open it up to the audience in a minute, but I do want to ask about the casting choice of working with your parents. I know they featured in another film of yours, I Hate Myself, Smiley Face, in a pretty surprising way. And I'm just wondering how, did it take much convincing to get them to work with you again on a feature, and just what was that dynamic like?
No, not too much convincing. My mom volunteered, and we had done a camera test with her, and I just thought she was great. I had been curious about her, screen presence because I thought she was an interesting person to watch from the documentary, and yeah, I guess I just liked working with a mix of first-time actors as well as seasoned actors. I felt like it, lent the story more authenticity to see different styles, and like in a film that has different neighborhoods and different textures. I just really wanted to kind of have it be a full tapestry.
I do want to. I could just like talk a bit about comedy for a second, just how you think about it throughout your filmmaking process. I mean, there's obvious verbal and physical comedy in this film, but also just the way the film is structured and just how you sequence the films. There are also these jokes that emerge just with the cut. And I'm just thinking about how your ideas about comedy sort of shifts like once you get to the editing stage of the film.
I mean, it was exciting to, find new jokes with the edit. And, we have these different storylines throughout the film with, I want to include work and family along with the sexuality and relationships plot lines. And it was, I think exciting comically to underline the contrast of, character wrestling with communication, power dynamics, and things along communication, and like sometimes underlining the contrast between those threads, and sometimes underlining the similarities. So, yeah.
I guess going off what Graham was saying, how long was the film initially?
Well, I guess it wasn't a cut. It was just the first assembly of all the scenes that we shot without any sort of, removal was 4 hours. But it was
second film there.
It was a real rough choices were made to get it down to 88 minutes, and I definitely miss a lot of characters and storylines.
Okay, any questions? Yep, there's a hand right there.
I was wondering if you could talk briefly about the fake or the contrived films within the films. A film, the experimental, and then the French piece. I really enjoyed those. I was just curious to hear a bit about how they existed.
They were inspired by certain films that I had seen, and with the ocean one, like I was kind of like hoping to set a new tone with that, I guess same with the French music film, to sort of use these real emotions that I had watching these films and create something new that could shift the film in a different way.
Yep, in the back.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could speak to, were there any films that were, or filmmakers that were a big influence on you while you were working on this film?
Thanks, Jesse. I feel like one reference for me is always the work of Simon Leung, and especially how his long take, long shot style leaves the viewer room to experience a strange cinematic world in their own terms, with and emphasize the comedy of things playing out in context. And our cinematographer, Bart Courtwright, worked with me to find those uncomfortable framings.
Similarly to the experimental film question, the show tune that you sing, that's not a piece from Les Mis, right? So I guess my question is that the music and the experimental piece, what is the line between creating your own universe and budget constraints for the licensing on those choices?
I can't, who's talking? Can you wave? Oh, okay, hi, sorry. Just didn't see you there. The Harry Potter song is something that I wrote in high school. and it was supposed to be a different musical, and that was a budget constraint.
There were a couple of budget constraints.
So we had to cut it, and a good friend suggested, why don't you just put your Harry Potter song in? And I was like, what? Would that make sense? Why would I just suddenly be singing a Harry Potter song? But it kind of, I think it sort of seems like it's Les Mis, and then maybe just slightly confuses people who are listening to the lyrics, but it's fine.
I thought it was in Les Mis.
We're trying to get it to chart, so please look it up on Spotify and iTunes when you go home.
Okay, we have time for one more question from you. I'm not sure where the mic is. Yeah, you. I'll repeat the question. Was about just the challenges directing yourself in the film.
It was kind of a mix of things. A wonderfully supportive team overall. Just getting an idea of how the scenes were going while I was in them. And I had two wonderful friends who were my acting coaches, Essie Casey, who's here, and Han Park, who isn't. And we had a rehearsal process before, and they would reflect back my performance to me and discuss the different ways we had wanted to try it. And then I would also watch back takes, maybe one or two per scene to get a sense.
Okay, we have to wrap it up, but Joanna, everyone, thank you so much for this hilarious
Thank
film.
you.